So with that being said, I only got a few slides between you and lunch. That'll actually conclude the session here. And then, as we said, we have lunch just outside the room. And we are all available for one-on-ones if any one of you prefer to have further discussions. Okay. So the first slide here is basically just to put 2 lines under that Napatech have a very solid strategy that we strongly believe would move us into high growth and higher volumes areas compared to where we are today, what we call the dominate area. We talked about several of those areas today, both Jared and also Stefano and Jim talked about that. So especially the last one here was what Jim referred a lot to, the compute offload in the data centers. We also saw that the virtualization is a huge part of moving ahead. And I think that everybody can align to the fact that cybersecurity is a very interesting area. It's both high volume and high growth. So a solid strategy today that we believe actually paved the way for higher volumes and higher growth opportunities compared to what we've seen over the past years. Also, it's very important today to put a couple of lines under the execution of the strategy. And maybe one key takeaway from what Ken actually talked about today is that we have actually, in the history of the company, never seen as many engagements as we've seen just the past quarter, with types of customers and volumes of projects that is really completely different from what we have seen before. So we talked a little about the dominate, the OEM, where we normally do thousands of units for customers, to basically now look into RFQs that are talking about tens of thousands of units with completely different types of customers. Basically in the area of the dominate, where we still are very strong in packet capture into cybersecurity, and further down to virtualization. We have some very interesting proof of concept running with customers, and as Ken said, we actually believe that there will be made decisions around design wins throughout 2018, which of course, as soon as that happens, will be communicated to the market. And with that being said, we strongly believe that we are perfectly positioned basically to capture the market shift to reconfigurable computing, shifting into new segments that actually will come on top of the existing business. So where we believe the existing business will actually grow moderate over the next couple of years, our new initiatives, that will be the cybersecurity, the virtualization, and also the compute offload, I believe to carry the ambition of a milepost of $100 million. We really see it as a milepost basically coming out of the strategy for growth moving ahead. We also put some numbers and some ideas around how we see those unfold. And the cybersecurity for both existing and new customers that we have them today are a very large market. There's medium size growth in that kind of market. But what we see is actually a lot of customers today are starting discussing whether using FPGA technology in contrast to other technologies they've been using in the past or complementary to that technology would actually open up opportunities for Napatech and could be like a 60% contribution on new initiative moving ahead. Virtualization solutions is primarily for newer customers, which also means it will take a little longer time. It's smaller market size today, but with massive growth. We also believe that there are very good opportunities to actually gain revenue out of that. And the last but not least, very important part is actually the compute offload that Jim actually spent a good amount of time talking about today. Where that today is a smaller market size, we, as I also believe you conveyed, Jim, see this as a massive growth opportunity moving ahead, but actually also a little further out in time, where we actually believe that maybe up to 20% contribution to revenue within the new initiatives could come from that. So with that being said, we actually see a very, very strong potential for significantly higher growth than we have been able to convey previously. And I truly hope that today I've actually been giving you some different kind of perspectives on the Napatech business moving ahead, also with the input from Xilinx and Intel. And with that being said, that's basically why we are excited, because we really believe that the changes in the market right now are paving the way for new segments, additional segments to the traditional Napatech business. But not only that, also people and customers that are dramatically different from what we have seen before in the scale and the anxiety of getting their hands of FPGA technology to accelerate their applications. So with that being said, I would actually like to thank everyone for coming here today, and also open up for general questions if there are any. Otherwise, we of course take those during the lunchtime. Christopher?
On the 2022 target for $100 million revenues, could you say anything about what kind of gross margins and EBITDA margin you expect for the business when you get to that level with all the new initiatives and new software revenues, etc.?
Yeah, because as we move ahead, we believe that more and more of our business will actually be a software-focused business. It doesn't say that we will actually move away from delivering hardware. Software needs to run on something, but we will see hardware being delivered, as we also heard today, from other parties where there is a need for software. Obviously, that would go with higher margins. On the hardware side, of course, everybody knows that we'll see margins on that will be lower. So moving ahead, I would actually imagine they will start reporting on different margins for different product lines. Did that somehow answer your question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so please take some lunch, and don't hesitate to come in and ask questions to all of us. We'll be available for the next couple of hours, and thank you very much for attending Napatech Capital Markets Day. Thank you.